All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, basketball fans of all ages, I am Beast Mike. You have now arrived at my train of thought. My apologies for the delay. A little under the weather, but I'm pretty good to go now. And ironically, the weather is much better here. So let's get to the NBA playoff predictions. I'm going to save the non-playoff teams. In other words, the teams that will end up in the draft lottery right before the draft lottery on the 12th of May. This video is going to focus on the teams that are going to be in the playoffs. And I'm going to go east to west. And I'm going to go round by round with each conference. So we're going to get busy and first focus on the 2-1 seeds. This is going to be pretty quick. I don't think either will be tested whatsoever in the first round. No matter who wins tonight, whether it's the Mavs or Grizzlies for the Thunder opponent, or it's the Heat or Hawks for the Cavaliers opponent, neither series gets past 5. I think they're going to be relatively easy for the two best teams in the NBA this year, where Cleveland and Oklahoma City will roll. Now we're going to get to the eastern portion of this. I'm going to go 2, 3, 4 for each conference in the first round. Let's get to business. I don't think Boston's going to be tested too much either. They were the third best team in the NBA this year, and I see Boston's going to steamroll Orlando. I'm going to be nice. I'll give Orlando a game. I think Paolo gets one. He'll get game 4 as a courtesy, but that's about it. The Jaylen Brown injury is a little concerning, but other than that, I don't think Boston's going to have too many problems here. This is a gentleman's sweep. Boston rolls. Next up, let's go to the 3-6 matchup, Pistons and the Knicks. Now, Detroit has handled the Knicks this year, 3-1, and Cade Cunningham has handled business against the Knicks. The Knicks are normally a pretty good defense, but Cade Cunningham has had no issues, and the Knicks have had no answers. It's a shame that Jaden Ivey isn't around, or at least hasn't been around over the last few months. Otherwise, their second best player in Detroit would probably be an even higher seed than what they currently are. The Knicks' lack of depth concerns me, and how Tom Thibodeau runs his roster into the ground. Will they have enough juice to get past a Detroit team that's got a lot of young guns? My answer will be no. And one of the few times we're going to do this in this playoff predictor, I'm going to go with the youth here. Give me Pistons in 6, because I don't think the Knicks are going to have an answer for Cade Cunningham. Kane and Brunson will probably cancel to some degree, but I do like what Detroit has been able to do this year. I think Detroit will steal one of the first 2 games and take the rest of it home. Pistons in 6. Staying in the best division in basketball, which was the Central Division this year, Bucks and Pacers. Now, these two teams obviously met last year, and we saw that Milwaukee just didn't have anywhere near enough guns to deal with Indiana. Indiana basically ran them off the court in the home games at the Conseco Fieldhouse. At least that's what I remember it as. Anyway, now the Dame Lillard blood clot issue is concerning. And yes, Giannis could go Super Saiyan at any given moment. I think he'll have to. I don't know if Milwaukee has enough to deal with a Pacer team that's not as offensively destructive as they were last year, but offensively talented enough where they can take care of business and basically make it a track meet, or I don't think Milwaukee has the resources to catch up. This is a 6-game series because Giannis is good enough to get 2, but I think that's all they get. Pacers in 6. And now let's go to the Western Conference. Like I said, I don't think the Thunder are going to be challenged. I think the Thunder are going to gentleman's sweep whoever it is, whether it is the Mavericks or the Grizzlies. Could Ja get 2? Maybe. But that's as far as either series will go. I'll say gentlemen sweeps either way. Let's get to the 2-7 matchup. It's Warriors, it's Rockets, and it's the boogeyman that for Houston has been. 3 times last decade, these two teams faced off in the latter half of the decade. And in every case, Golden State had an answer. Whether it's the conference finals, whether it was the first round, whether it was the second round, it did not matter. The answer was always the same. Golden State wins. I would love the Rockets a year from now in the sense of their playoff standing and their playoff ability to move forward in the next round or further rounds. My problem with Houston is their experience. And I think that's really the only problem I have with them. They're pretty good. They're very good offensively. They're very well built. They have good depth. They have very good coaching. It's just lack of experience. That bothers me here. And for Golden State, a team who has a bunch of experience, despite how they played to get to the 7th seed as opposed to locking up the 6th, I think Golden State will still get it together. I trust Steph and I trust Jimmy Butler in a playoff setting. I need people 3 through 8 for Golden State, however, to produce, though. That's a concern. Give me Warriors in 6, but I think it's a really good series. Next up, the 3-6, the Lakers and the Timberwolves. And I do love this matchup and what it could be. Now, can Minnesota, who's got a lot of decent size, and Naz Reid, and can Rudy Gobert stay on the court? That's a question that we're going to need to see the answer to, and he's going to have to provide a good answer for that. Will he be able to be a playable player in these playoffs? Because there have been rounds and series where the answer is no. Can the Lakers make it a small ball situation? Can Luka and LeBron and Austin Reeves and company make this a full court game where Minnesota's size is neutralized? That's a question I need to see answered. There's also the portion where I need to know what happens with Anthony Edwards. Who's going to cover him for the Lakers? Can LA's perimeter defense keep up with Anthony Edwards? Because if they can't, Ant-Man's going to give him 40 almost every game, and that's going to be a very big problem for LA. Minnesota, I think, absolutely is going to need a second guy to really take care of business in this series against the Lakers, and I think that's why they won't. Lakers in 6, but Anthony Edwards puts on a show. And let's get to the 4-5 matchup here. It is Nuggets, it is Clippers, and this is easily the hardest series to predict in round 1 because there are reasons to think that both teams could win it. On one hand, the Clippers. They're actually healthy for once. They're actually rolling into the playoffs for once. They look really, really impressive. James Harden and Kawhi Leonard are looking like a well-oiled machine. That's impressive, I would say. Meanwhile, you have Norman Powell and Zubas, and they're obviously well coached by Ty Lue. They are as well-oiled a machine as they've almost ever been, the Clippers are. Could this be their year to actually make a move? Or in the case of Denver, you have the turmoil with the coaching firing of Mike Malone, which I still don't understand, but I guess there was locker room drama, so maybe, okay, fine, it makes sense. And Adelman now in the building, we'll see if he's learned from his dad, and I think it's possible that he has. I wouldn't think that he couldn't coach because of the experience. I think he'll figure it out on the way. It also helps to have the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic. And Jamal Murray, who's been a playoff assassin in his career, he should be back. That's a huge get. I need, just like for the Warriors, for Denver, I need 2 through 8 to ball out. I'm going to need 2 through 8 to ball. And if they don't, there's going to be some problems. This is, I think, a 7-game series. I'm going to go with the Nuggets. I just can't trust Harden. We've seen in too many playoff series that James Harden plays well at the start of them, but when you really, really need him to play well, he doesn't. That's concerning. And I think Harden will have a good series. I just don't know if he'll be great when you absolutely have to have him be great. Give me Nuggets in 7 because I trust Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic to take it home and finish the deal in a 7th game. Now we're going to head back east, and this is where the Cavaliers are going to enter the chat. Cleveland will play, I'm going to say, obviously they have the 4 seed. They will play the Pacers in round 2. And although I think Indiana's going to be good, I do think Halliburton's going to get a game and probably 2 games because Indiana, I think, is good enough to get 2 in this series. I think ultimately that's just as far as it goes. Cleveland's just way too high end. Cavaliers in a good 6-game series. So I think Cleveland is going to move on to the conference final. They win in 6. And then we're going to go to Boston and Detroit, and this is where the experience really comes into play. This is going to be a gentleman's sweep. I think Boston handles Detroit in 5. And no shame, Pistons. If you get this far, and even no shame even now, like no matter what happens to you in these playoffs, as long as you don't get swept by the Knicks, I'm very proud of you, Pistons. You have really come from out of the shadows to become a very respectable team. With Jaden Ivey back for a full season and get a little bit more experience, a little bit more tinkering with your big men, although I like what they're doing, but a little bit more tinkering with the roster, And Detroit's going to be ready to go, and they're going to be even better next year and possibly challenge the Cavaliers or Boston or whomever for the best team in the Eastern Conference once again. But this is just the beginning for the Pistons. I am very proud of what Detroit has done. Their season ends here, gentlemen sweep by Boston. Now I'm going to go to the West, and now the Thunder can enter the chat and play the Nuggets. By the way, the Western Conference is absolutely ridiculous no matter how you slice it, no matter how you put it. And in this instance, I'm going to have it be a really good 6-game series because Jokic and Murray will refuse to lose. This feels like a 3-1 series lead type of thing. And then Jokic and Murray are like, we're not going out like this. They take it back. They drag OKC back to Denver for Game 6. But I think that's where it ends. I think that's ultimately where this goes. And the Thunder will win the series in 6 games. So we get LeBron versus Steph again. This time in round 2 once again. Lakers versus Warriors. If you would have asked me this a week ago, I would have absolutely picked Golden State in this situation. We just saw them a little under a month ago, and it was Golden State who beat the Lakers. It was Steph Curry who couldn't miss. It was Podziemski who couldn't miss. It was Draymond Green making clutch defensive plays, especially the one at the very end against Luka. That was an incredible defensive performance on that particular play. It was a physical game, it was a chippy game, but it was a fun game, and I think we'd all sign up for 7 more games of this. And I think that's what we're going to get here. If you would have asked me this a month ago, like I was just trying to say, I would pick the Warriors. I think their defense is better. I like their depth a little bit better than the Lakers' depth. But it's just the way that they've played a little bit down the stretch concerns me. And I think it concerns me enough to have LeBron and Luka take care of business in a 7th game at Staples, or the Crypt, if you will. Lakers in a really fun, really entertaining 7 games. And that 7th game is going to get millions of views on pretty much every platform humanly possible. So now I'm going to get back east, and we're going to go to the conference finals. And it's the one I think we all expected. It's Cavaliers, it's Celtics. And it's just the 2 best teams. And I think Cleveland overall has been better this year. I love the way Donovan Mitchell's played. I love the way Darius Garland's played. They've got shooters all over the place. They've got 2 bigs who can make life miserable for anyone who doesn't have 2 bigs. They can play a traditional 2-big system with Mobley as a bit of a stretch 4. Jared Allen can also defend, and we know Mobley could win Defensive Player of the Year now that Wemby will not. It's a really good setup. Now, yes, Boston's going to come prepared, and they've got shooters everywhere as well. Sure. But I think Cleveland's just overall a little bit better this year. Cavaliers in a really fun 7-game series. They go back to the finals against, whether it's LeBron's OG team or it is the best team in the NBA this year. It is Lakers, it is Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, at least for my predictions. Ultimately, I don't think the Lakers will get too exploited by their lack of size, or at least formidable size in these playoffs, until we get here. Until we get to the Western Conference Finals. I think Chet and Jalen Williams and company, I think, can help neutralize the Lakers. And their young gun style and their defensive style, I think, is going to be problematic for LA. Now, sure, they did play recently, and the Lakers did win. But I think the Thunder, with SGA and how good that team has been on offense and on defense, I think win a really good 6-game series and will go to the NBA Finals. So, I have Cavaliers, I have Thunder. That's the NBA Finals. I think that they've been the 2 best teams all year. Why stop now? I think both 1 seeds get back to the NBA Finals, as opposed to both the marquee teams, i.e. Lakers Celtics, which would make millions of people very happy because Lakers Celtics. But in this case, I'm just going to go with the 2 best teams. I think they have dominated in both conferences the entire way through, and I think that will stick in these playoffs. In the end, I'm going to go with the team that's been the best all the way through. Oklahoma City wins the title. This is going to be a fun 6 or 7 game series. I'll actually go 7 here. OKC wins in 7. I think it's a fun 7-game series, but ultimately the Thunder's defense will be a little bit too much and too strong. SGA obviously wins the Finals MVP, but I think this is going to be a fun 7-game series. And for Oklahoma City, They kind of usher in a new era of young athleticism and speed and defense and very versatile type of team that I think ultimately is just the best team this year. And it could be even better if the lottery falls their way. I'll explain that, obviously, when we get to the draft lottery video with the teams that don't make the playoffs. So there you have it. That is the NBA playoff predictions, at least from me. What are yours? Who do you think goes to the finals? How do you think your bracket will go? Post your picks below in the comments. And the next thing I'm going to do is the NHL in a similar format, in a similar way. I'm going to go west to east with the NHL this time. And I will say personally, I think the NHL playoffs is the best of the four major sports. I think their playoffs are so exciting, so dramatic, incredible watch from here to June. And it's a gauntlet, effectively, in both conferences. So, because the Winnipeg Jets won the President's Trophy, I'm going to go to the True North for the first stop of my next train of thought.